Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host Nathan P. Butler as we continue our march toward episode 500 here. And this time we continue looking at something that we looked at in the relatively recent past that I decided to kind of continue pushing forward with after those recent purchases. And that is to look at more VCDs from Indonesia. In the past, we have looked at the Indonesian VCD releases of the prequel trilogy, right? So Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, compared them to those from Malaysia and other places, and we took a look at the surprising release on VCD of The Force Awakens from Malaysia. Now, I am led to believe that it is possible, I haven't seen full confirmation, it's possible that Rogue One also got a VCD release in Indonesia. I'm actually not certain. It's hard to find information about that. If there is, then yes, that one is still missing from my collection. If there's not, then what we're going to look at this time, I think, finishes my VCD collection from Indonesia, at least for the live-action films. Maybe they got one for the Clone Wars film as well. I'll just keeping an eye out for them. You may recall that actually relatively early in this series, we looked at what I think was either the first or one of the two first VCDs we ever looked at on the show, which is this. This is the original trilogy VCD set from 2000 from Malaysia. Relatively tall here, about the same size height-wise as the Malaysian Phantom Menace, for example, or the Indonesian prequel ones that we saw, that sort of thing here. So, kind of a tall release here. We looked at it in detail back then, we're not going to do so again here. That sticker, though, by the way, does say exclusive episode 2 sneak peek behind the scenes with George Lucas thing, indicating the saga continues. Little featurette being at the beginning of A New Hope here. When we saw this, as I almost drop it there, still have a little sticker on it and everything, and we found that inside kind of opens up like so, and you got your 3 films, each in a jewel case with 2 discs inside for each one, but they're sort of staggered and set into little slots here, making for a relatively dusty, but a relatively tall package here that doesn't really effectively use all the room inside it, but does look kind of striking on a shelf. Well, what I have found is that as we move from region to region, there are sometimes variants in packaging, as we saw quite a bit when we were looking at the prequel releases from Indonesia, comparing them to other regions. So I was curious if what we would see from Indonesia for the original trilogy from 2000 would wind up being basically the same thing as this, because that's typically what you see on eBay, or would there be any kind of variation to it? And it turns out it is a variation, and I actually like this one better than what we saw from Malaysia, though that one from Malaysia is certainly sort of what people think of when they think Star Wars VCD almost all the time. The one from Indonesia is this. Still got that same packaging that looks very much like we would see with the VHS releases, kind of given that same style. So we've got Vader with the X-Wings, Star Wars Trilogy against that black background, which is kind of the split little section here, white going down to golden. It's not white and gold. Notice here there's a gradient going on there. And then it does have a little sticker here, and the sticker in English says, exclusive episode 2 sneak peek behind the scenes with George Lucas, just like the other one said. Then also notes the price, RP 138,000, gold discs, and then underneath it says gratis. Kartu Koleski Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master Yoda, Sith Lord Darth Vader. What is that? It's cards, well, art cards that come inside this one that are not in anything from the Malaysian release. So there's the front, the side, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, Star Wars Trilogy, Roman numerals, then titles, Lucasfilm, product number, video CD. The other side, essentially the same thing, except against a white background, because it is wrapping over to the damaged side here, but given how hard it is to find one of these, I'm cool with that. I'd rather have it be damaged than not have one at all here. So we got C-3PO with 3PO and R2-D2 down here. Again, the gradient, white to gold kind of thing. Star Wars Trilogy right there as well. Top says Star Wars Trilogy there, the gold gradient version. The bottom is going to give you your legalese, UPC, and all your various logos here. Lucasfilm Limited, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment. This is again from Musica Video Van. Then we have the video CD logo and the notification that is, of course, from Indonesia. Okay. Now how this opens, this is the front, and you notice, by the way, that the little sticker is only on the one side, whereas the sticker on this one does exist on both sides, so you could actually kind of have that sitting either way, but this is definitively the front. That one you can tell when you start to open it, which is definitively meant to be the front. But we open it, and instead of some giant thing that includes the end caps kind of pulling open, it's just a page. It's just a nice cardboard page. I say nice, but it is that same thickness as what we'd see on like the Phantom Menace release, that poorly done one in Malaysia, and then we saw the same kind of thing with some of the Indonesian ones. But at least in this case, it's not just a piece of cardboard stuck on the disc. It's actually a box, and it's just the lid of the box. We have our similar shot here of the tie in the trench. And then you'll notice you only see the one disc. That's because it's like a big slot here, and they all just sort of stack inside this slot. And notice here when they're out, the art continues. It does kind of wrap around, but it's not a full wrap, because essentially what you see on this part here, if you're looking at it this way, and what you see on this part here, if you're looking at it this way, are the same part of the image. So if you line it up just right, essentially it's completing the image, even though it's two different layers of packaging. I find that to be pretty nice. And it allows this to be fairly compact when compared to the Malaysian release. They're about the same width. Malaysia just a little bit wider, but not terribly noticeably so. But height-wise, there is a significant size difference here, as you can see. So let's look at the individual films. We can do some comparison to the Malaysian version. So here's A New Hope. We have Original Premiere with the 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment logo and VCD in here. Also has a little video CD logo down there. But the font here is a little bit different, and it's in orange against a purple background relative to the Malaysian version, which is yellow with a slightly different font against a blue background, but essentially says the same thing. The layout of the Malaysian version has your image there of the characters, as it does for Indonesia. They both have the Star Wars with the 4 logo, then A New Hope. A little harder to see the H-O in Hope for Indonesia because of the way the font is set up there, the way the colors sort of overlap. But then underneath, it says Disc 1 and Disc 2 for both, but then you'll notice on the Indonesian one, it actually has the Indonesian title underneath. So A New Hope in English underneath, essentially the same title, but in Indonesian. The spine there, kind of hard to see with the lettering there, but it says Star Wars A New Hope, then has a product number and a video CD. Same as Malaysia, just a different product number there. Other spine, a little easier to read because it is gold against white. Star Wars title, product number, and video CD again. And then on the back, the giant 4. You've got the shots from the film. You've got your cast, crew information and whatnot, going then into your legalese, UPC, the various logos, as I showed you a moment ago, the copyright, and all that good stuff down there. As compared to Malaysia, the Malaysian one has a bigger warning section here at the top, and a rearrangement of the various logos and whatnot. It is Video Van, but this just says Video Van as opposed to Musica, Video Van, and so on. So pretty similar, just, you know, those typical regional differences that you would see. Inside, unlike in Malaysia, you have those art cards that it mentions. So we have Luke there. We got the gold border on top and bottom, kind of like what we've seen with some of the prequel promo stuff. So we got Luke there with the Episode 4 Star Wars A New Hope logo, all in English. On the back, we have a shot of the battle from Return of the Jedi that says, Luke Skywalker, I'm a Jedi, like my father before me. Also from Jedi, Lucasfilm, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, and Legalese there in the center. And that is a pretty blurry action shot there. One of my favorite shots of the film, but blurry as heck on there. And then as far as the insert goes, with its art there that I just showed you, in this case, it has the text here. You get the tagline in gold, the Force is strong with this one. And then it has your information in English, but then in Indonesian directly underneath. And then it does note 1997, of course, was when this particular version was made. 132 minutes and the 2000 copyright there. Contrast that with what we saw out of Malaysia, which is just English only, but otherwise similar design. Though I do think it's funny on the marketing for this particular release in 2000 that it's listed as set 30 years after Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, blah, 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 blah. First off, it's 32 years. And second, you're really trying to advertise A New Hope in relation to Phantom Menace, not the other way around. Sign of those times, I guess. As for the disc, legalese, C-3PO logo there. 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment logo with more legalese. We have Star Wars with the 4, A New Hope, disc 1. Then the logos there are for Musica Video Van and Original Video CD. Again, comparing that, we'll only do this for one disc because we don't need to do it for all of them. Compare that to what we see out of Malaysia. The Malaysian one has less legalese running around the side, but does have more stuff down here. Video Van, Wawasan Video Van, product number and video CD. And I will say that I do find the logo clearer on the one from Malaysia. More solid here, color gradient wise, on the one from Indonesia. But similar looking, but you can tell a difference. And the actual cases for these, unlike the ones that open kind of like a book out of Malaysia, these open the other direction for your second disc, which is the same. It just says disc 2. As for A New Hope, where does it split? Basically, when the Millennium Falcon is being pulled into the Death Star because it's caught in the tractor beam, there's a shot where it's sort of moving away from the screen toward the Death Star, and then it switches to another shot of it coming towards the camera. It splits between those two shots. And yes, it does, when you first put it in, it plays, among other things, like it's got the little like legal notices and stuff and whatnot. It does have a Fox Studios Australia promo on it, which is actually on all of the 3 films here. And then this one goes straight into that, Star Wars The Saga Continues featurette. Same thing you'd see in the US, same thing we saw with the Malaysian one before A New Hope on their VCD. It's just that little featurette to promote Attack of the Clones from this release in 2000. And with the film, what you've got here is all English audio, English crawl, but then subtitles for the crawl and subtitles for all of the film itself. And Saga Continues is also English language with Indonesian subtitles as well. Then we have The Empire Strikes Back. We don't need to compare to Malaysia because it's all kind of a kind at this point, but notice similar design, and it does have that Indonesian title. Spine similar, but very hard to see on camera. Other spine. Back. If these look familiar, by the way, remember, that is the design that I sort of aped for a Saga on Home Video second edition for all 3 volumes, with kind of the look that they would have. So yeah, that should look familiar if you've been reading the book recently, my book recently. Inside, we've got Yoda, which is kind of cool, little Yoda card here. It says The Empire Strikes Back and everything. And if you flip it around, it says Jedi Master Yoda, says, "You must feel the Force around you." And does have a picture that at least matches the film. But so much for the matching part, because when we look at the insert, you got that shot there, which I think actually is the shot from Empire Strikes Back, but it's done with the wrong lightsaber color. It's green instead of blue, which is funny because, of course, that was sort of the opposite issue that they had with the original Return of the Jedi / Revenge of the Jedi posters. And then there's your disc there. Similar in design, just with the Vader face. Better gradient there, I would say, on the logo. And then open it up, and there's the other disc. And then finally, Return of the Jedi. Similar design again with the title and everything there. Spine that's kind of hard to see. Spine that's still kind of hard to see, but less so. The back, again, similar design to Malaysia, but with those alterations as mentioned previously. It does come with an art card of Vader with the film. Then on the back it says, "Sith Lord Darth Vader, join me." Wait, that sounds kind of Empire-y. Yes! The image is also from The Empire Strikes Back, for some damn reason. Then you have the back of the insert, and the disc labels there, and it does open out to the side again. As to Empire and Jedi, where they split, they do start the same way, right? It's just kind of legal notices, promo for Fox Studios Australia and all that. But then Empire splits right as Luke's like, "You want the impossible," and starts walking away. When Yoda kind of huffs down and is about to start lifting the X-Wing, it cuts kind of between him sitting down to do it and the bubbling starting in the water. And then Jedi picks up where they've just kind of fallen out of the net onto the ground and the Ewoks have surrounded them, and up pops C-3PO, and the Ewoks give the stereotypical Looney Tunes must be from South America or Central America Looney Tunes use of the phrase "Aichi-wa-wa" kind of thing, and then it cuts and then jumps back on continuing with more of the Ewok reactions to it. So as usual, I mean, these are VCDs. The video quality is pretty bad, even compared to something like VHS, but it's of that sort of era as a cheaper thing that you could get for a while as compared to DVDs, something that was around, I think, a little bit prior to that. But just compression-wise, it makes for a pretty ugly viewing experience relative to most. But just a cool little side thing within collecting, right? We've seen it from Malaysia and Hong Kong and Turkey and now Indonesia and so on. Just kind of a nifty little thing. And I do think that this is probably my favorite of the packaging types for at least what I've seen of the original trilogy. Granted, I've only been able to compare these two, but I believe the Hong Kong one is essentially the same as the Malaysian one. It's nice to see something a little bit more compact, which just gives it a sleeker look and profile when it's going to be on your shelves here. So with that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.